I believe that every child conceived of this earth has the right to the same basic human rights as anybody else. I believe that every child has the right to be born to loving parents consisting of a mother and a father. I believe every child has the right to sufficient nourishment, clean water, and food to help them grow. I believe every child should be given a basic education and literacy and have good access to good medical facilities. I believe every child has the right to live free from harm and abuse and fear, and to be able to experience the joy and innocence of childhood. I believe they should be able to live free from twisted notions of false religions and sexuality, and be allowed to grow themselves into good adults who can experience life, experience love, and be given the opportunity to make their own contribution to the history of mankind. And it's the biggest stain on humanity that over time, millions and millions and millions of children have been denied this opportunity. Children who've been born into a world of greed and corruption and selfishness, born into a world where violence, is used as a currency in order to attain power and wealth. It's the greatest tragedy of humankind that life is a lottery, and that where you were born determines your chances of survival. So I want to apologise to children, past and present, because nobody else will apologise to the children. I want to apologise to all the children who are born into poverty, even though there's enough resources and wealth in this world for everybody to live comfortably and nourished. I want to apologise to all the children who were born into war and conflict, who became innocent victims, in a violent push for power. Children who became victims massacred by bombs and bullets, before the young lives even started. I want to apologise to the millions of third world children, who have been allowed to starve to death or been slaughtered and butchered in conflict because there's no profit in the West interfering and saving their young lives. I want to apologise to all the children who became victims to twisted, sick individual minds who preyed on their defencelessness and their innocence and slaughtered them sometimes in the most horrific ways. I want to apologise to the hundreds and thousands of children who've been abducted through time. Abducted, sold into slavery, put into the sex trade, basically to feed elite people's perversions for young children. I want to apologise to young children across the West who are abducted and taken to places like Boys Town or Franklin, Nebraska, who are put on the Lolita Express and various other locations across America and Europe, whose whole purpose in life turned out to be to feed the perversions and sick minds of various politicians, even presidents, members of European royal families, artists, movie stars, pop stars, young children who became sacrifices, victims of abuse, victims of murder, and even some whose sole purpose became to provide sick, perverted, elitist bastards with a lust for the androchemo given off by the blood of tormented, abused, butchered young children. I want to apologise to all them for suffering such a horrible fate at the hands of pure evil bastards. And I want to apologise to the survivors of these atrocities, survivors who tried to bring forward the truth, who were disbelieved, who were muted. I want to apologise to them for what they have seen, what they have suffered. How anybody could cause such harm to a child is just beyond any normal thinking. And I can't begin to think of the torment, the pain, the suffering, the pure desperation felt by all these children throughout the ages who've been treated disgracefully, murdered, butchered, mutilated, abused at the hands of evil, evil human beings. I'm reluctant to call them human beings. Evil, dirty, fucking animals. I apologise to them all, and my heart goes out to every child who's ever suffered. I want to apologise to the parents of these children who one day, whose lives are torn apart with the abduction of their child, never to be seen again, whose lives turn into a pit of misery and horror and just abject pain for the rest of their lives, just so that some elitist bastard can get 5 minutes of sexual gratification from their child. To them parents, I apologise with all my heart. And then, to make probably the worst of all, I apologise to all the children who suffered abuse and who were killed at the hands of the very people who should have been protecting them most. I apologise to all the children through time who've been murdered by their own parents, abused by their own parents. There's no greater betrayal in the history of humankind than for a parent or a family member to take the life of one of their own. To all the children who found themselves at the end of that atrocity, I apologise. Even children who've escaped these fates, children who are born into good areas, into privileged people, I apologise to them too, because they've been born into a world, they've been born into a selfish world where what you own defines who you are, and what you haven't got ends in ridicule. I apologise to all the young children who found themselves subject to this kind of ridicule and this kind of grandstanding, and who've not been able to attain what others have deemed to be acceptable levels, and who've tragically, as a result of taking their own lives. In the last number of decades, the number of young people committing suicide has just gone through the roof. I apologise to all them for the horrible, materialistic, soulless world that they've been born into. To all them children, I apologise gravely. A world where what you are is defined by what others see in you. It's just a horrible indictment of a crumbling moral mess of a society that we've become. And the fact that it's led to so many young suicides is just tragic. We're living in a world where the lines are blurring ever more scarily between what should be right in accordance with nature and science and history, as opposed to what is being forced upon children now as normal, where children are being indoctrinated into forms of religion and sexuality that just ideals that go against the course of nature and scientific proof. I apologise to the children now for the ever more confused world they are being born into. And most of all, I apologise to the millions and millions of children over time who've been murdered in the womb before they even were given a chance to breathe our air. Babies aborted because the parents couldn't afford to keep them, or the parents weren't ready to have a child, or I can't have a child now because it will mess up my career, or I only got pregnant because I was pissed drunk and I didn't know what I was doing, or the contraception never worked, so I shouldn't have to keep the child. To all them millions of children who've been murdered in the womb because of selfish parents, I apologise to them all. And to those selfish parents, to them selfish mothers, I say this. Yes, your body, your choice. It's also your choice not to get pregnant. And if you want to know a good way not to get pregnant, I can tell you one very simply, and it's cost free. Keep your fucking legs closed. If you don't want a child, don't have one. Don't get pregnant and then murder that defenseless, innocent human being in your stomach. To all the children, I apologize with all my heart, and I can only hope there is a God and there is a heaven, and in that heaven you all reside, and that you're able to see in the hell below you that all the dirty, rotten, twisted, bastard adults that cause your demise are suffering 10 times more in hell than you ever did on earth. To you all, my heart goes out. Next time, take care.